in those situations because of the fact of we don't like to see that many people lose their home. But at the same time, they've already been struggling in it. The issue is so many real estate agents. Can you imagine 83% of those transactions not closing? How devastating that is to a real estate agent or broker when they work on a file sometimes for a year only to get declined. And agents are starting to get very upset with this as well. Every now and then they'll be working on a short sale for months, 7, 8, 9 months. They'll have it in escrow at $300,000. And they've got an open escrow. They've got a real buyer. Everybody's ready to go. And the bank says, no, we're not going to do it. And they let it go to the foreclosure auction. It goes to the foreclosure auction and sells at $265,000. And it boggles everybody's mind. Well, there's a reason for that. So when you can use market intelligence, and where that's going to stem for us in this aspect is you need to know what banks are doing short sales, what banks are not, what banks want to get them done, what banks are not. And I'll give you a clue. If the bank is not calling you back for 2 to 3 months, they do not want to do a short sale. Yes?
The bank's just not that into you.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and I always do an analogy of, when I do a training seminar, I always say, how many of you have ever been out on a first date before? And, of course, everybody raises their hand.
Right.
And my analogy is always, how many days after the date did you wait by the phone for it to ring before you figured out that person is not interested?
Right.
And so if the bank is not calling you back for 3 months, they've already told you they're not interested.
Right. Absolutely.
So the first criteria is to make sure you've got a hardship. The second one is financial. And so if the people on the call have a pen and paper, we'll do a couple of examples.
All right.
Let's just say that again, your property is in, let's just say Tustin. Property is worth $350,000. Your first mortgage is $450,000. So you got a sales price of $350,000, first mortgage of $450,000, second mortgage is $200,000. So you now owe $650,000 on this $350,000 house. Are we going to go out after that listing? And that answer is no. Why? Because it doesn't fit the profile of what's closing. And now why? If you've got a sales price of $350,000 after escrow, commission, and title, and everything else, you're actually going to net out about $315,000 or $320,000. So the lender on the first position is about $130,000 short to close, which is extraordinarily difficult for them to do, and that leaves nothing for the second mortgage. And that is very, very important to understand. This one here we would pass on. And this scenario here is a lot what's on the MLS. You're going to pass on those. The second scenario, same sales price, $350,000. The first mortgage is $285,000, and the second mortgage is $150,000. Are we going to go out after that one? And that answer is yes. That is our target. And you need to have the right source so you can get the market intelligence to find those properties there, because there are less than them. In Orange County, there's well over 2,000 properties right now that could go up as a short sale that aren't even on the market. Of the 2,000, there's only about 300 of them that are going to fit into that category that I just described. So if you use the market intelligence and you go out after short sales that are actually closable, you are going to make more money and do a great service for your client. Now, in that scenario that I just gave you, I always ask, how many short sale packages do we send? So remember, they owe properties are worth $350,000 and they owe $280,000 on the first, and then $200 or $150 on the second. And I always ask, how many short sale packages are we going to send? And many people say 2. It's not 2. You're not going to send a package to the first, because if you look at the numbers, the first is in an equity position. So there's no way they're going to go short. So that is our target, is those scenarios there. The third point that I want to make about this, because the lenders have stated that 91% of the short sales that have been done, 91% since 2005 have been done wrong. And this is where they go wrong. Short sales is a very important business, and there's all kinds of catches in there. On the approval that most lenders give you, the approval has got to come across and state, congratulations, your short sale has been approved. And when everybody sees that, everyone's ecstatic.
Yay!
Yeah, exactly. The listing agent, the selling agent,
Yeah.
the buyer, the seller, escrow, everybody's happy. Your short sale has been approved. And then down below it gives the specifics. It says, we've agreed, you currently owe us $150,000. We agree to take $5,000 now. And then they go on with some more verbiage. Then on page 2, it says, we agree to take $5,000 now, and sometime over the next 10 years, we can come after you for the remaining deficiency. And now what the new legislation is what that is now done is it's no longer a deficiency judgment. Now the loan has been, the terms have been rewritten. So what the bank is saying is, we're going to take $5,000 now, and we're going to come after you for up to 10 years. But people don't see that. And so this is the key thing. And a lot of real estate agents have told me, Bob, that's unfair that they're doing it. They're throwing it in. Nope. The lenders always put it on page 2. And Eric and Brianna, you're going to be shocked at this, but guess why the lenders put it on page 2?
Why is that?
The reason they put it on page 2 is because the lenders feel that this is very, very clearly from the lenders. They said that real estate agents do not read their contracts.
Wow.
And get this, 91% of them have this deficiency in there.
Wow.
So now, when are they going to go after that? You'll remember that the Mortgage Debt Relief Act of 2007 is there from 2007 until 2012. For these 5 years, so we have 2 years left, being a short sale is basically a get-out-of-debt-free card where you can get out of the debt and not be taxed on it, and the lender can't come after you. After 2012, the lender can then go after you for the difference. And so what they're doing now is they're holding on to all of these short sales where they said we can come after you for up to 10 years. And after 2012, you are going to see something happen in the market that we've never had, that we've never seen before. So I want to encourage everybody on this call to always make sure that when you do a short sale, please write down this term, you always ask for a full release and a full satisfaction. Full release and a full satisfaction. The lenders will happily do it, but they are not going to say we'll do it right up front. You're going to have to ask them for that once you get the approval.
Okay.
So don't ask them for that before the loan is approved. Make sure you wait for the approval and then have that amendment to follow. And now your seller has been 100% protected, and you have done a great job for them.
Now, is every bank participating in this collect the deficiency after 2012, or is it just certain banks?
It will be most of the banks. Most of the banks have put together debt collection companies because, of course, the bank does not want to go after them. So what they're going to do, you know what most banks do, or credit card companies, is they will pursue somebody, they will pursue a creditor for 6 months. After 6 months, what they do is they charge off that debt. Mm-hmm. And in essence, they write it off. And they give it to a debt collector / attorney. And the debt collectors are they are gearing up for this something fierce. Most of them are backed by banks. Most of the banks do not foreclose. Matter of fact, they create another business that has a different name that does the foreclosure service, but it is still that bank or institution.
Okay. So we've talked about which ones will get approved, which ones won't get approved, and from that standpoint, you know what you're working with in terms of presenting this short sale to the bank. You know if it's going to be a pretty much automatic decline if those numbers and those scenarios don't work. But in the circumstance where you do find that short sale that makes sense on all lines of hardship, numbers, legitimate, short sales, what does it take to get them closed? You can do them in 60 days or less, right?
Yes. You've got to put together a great package for them that's going to include an introduction letter. And in my introduction letter, what's interesting is the bank's policies, some of them change, some of them do not. So you have to make sure that your introduction letter that you send in, remember that the person that you're sending it into is the loss mitigation officer that you're going to deal with is on average 23 years old.
Young.
That's what's in the bank. They are very efficient, and remember, a loss mitigation officer only gets paid on files that can close. So if you are 23 years old, you are aggressive, you're looking to make the most money you possibly can, you don't want to play around with files that can't close. So you need to make sure that you send in a package, a good package with all the requirements, and an open escrow. You have to have a valid open escrow. Now, real estate agents for a long time have come up with this thing that we're not going to open up an escrow until we actually have an approval from the bank. And I learned this, Eric and Brianna, a long time ago. It does not matter what we as real estate agents and brokers think or the way we think it should be or hope it would be. What we have to do is we have to understand the policy of the bank. So you want to have an open escrow. So agents are the ones that came up with this. Now, why did agents come up with this? Because many of the escrow companies have said, we're not going to open up an escrow because it costs them money. They've got to create escrow instructions, get a prelim, send up for demands and everything else, and then what they realized is that they weren't getting paid. So if you really look at this, the loss mitigation officer doesn't want to work on something unless they can get paid. The escrow officer doesn't want to work on something unless they can get paid. We as real estate agents and real estate brokers, we need to start only working on things when we can get paid. Follow the lead here.
It's a hard concept.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And so what we have to do is, and what I learned a long time ago, is that forget what I know. It doesn't matter. I need to give the bank what they want, not what I think they want. The bank will make it very, very clear. And one of the first things that you're going to do is your introduction letter, that first letter that you send, you've got to have specific information on that introduction letter to let that loss mitigation officer know that they've got a hot one, and it's in your introduction letter. Because once that person sees that they can get paid, they're going to close it. Here's another thing that's extraordinarily important for you as you get your short sales done. Normally in a training session, I'll ask the audience, how many people here have actually closed a short sale? And, a lot of hands go up. If you've closed a short sale, you have a major advantage. This is what you need to do. You need to call that loss mitigation officer back when you close every short sale. And once you close that short sale, you call that loss mitigation officer back and you say, thank you very much for working with me. I learned a lot working with you. Now, why do we do that? These poor loss mitigation officers have a horrible job. Every file that they deal with is somebody losing their home. And the average loss mit officer out there has between 300 and 400 files. They're getting calls from sellers, from buyers, from real estate agents. Everybody's putting them down, telling them they don't know what they're doing. So imagine what it's going to be like when you call up. Every time you talk to them, you're polite. You say thank you, and at the end of the transaction, you say thanks a lot. I learned a lot working with you. And then you follow up with, if I get another short sale with your company, do I call you back directly